What China is hiding could change everything, and I mean everything. No wonder the West is actively planning to go to war with China, doing everything it can to stop them. So we'll get into this big secret in a moment. And I'm going to show you some shocking data which paints an undeniable picture of the big trouble for the West. But first, let's talk about the military stuff, the war footing, the chest beating, if you will. Over the past few days, China has moved more warships and assets into the Middle East.
The PLA, the Chinese army, has sent 6 warships to West Asia. It's not clear when they arrived, but last week they made their presence known.
China is showing the West that it means business. They're not going to allow the United States and Israel to dictate terms in the Middle East, showing their support for Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and Palestinians. The Middle East is crucial for China's Belt and Road Initiative. It does not want Israel stealing Palestinian natural gas and oil off the coast of Gaza. Yeah, the 1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas that belongs to Palestinians that was discovered off their coast in the year 2000. China doesn't want the United States stealing it. They don't want Israel or the UK stealing it and then selling it to Europe and the Middle East. It also doesn't want a regional war in the Middle East, or so they say. China doesn't want a war at all with the West, or so they say. And Xi Jinping just made this statement.
China does not seek spheres of influence and will not fight a cold war or a hot war with anyone.
Okay, so you might not want a war with the United States, but what if the United States wants a war with you and puts nuclear submarines in Australia, which they're currently doing, and encircles Taiwan, which is exactly what they are going to do? A war would cause a total disruption of their growing partnership with Saudi Arabia and the massive Belt and Road projects that will transform the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. Late this week, China announced a massive new multi-billion-dollar partnership with Arab countries, billions to the UAE, huge currency swap with Saudi Arabia. They are not going to let the United States muck this up, even as the United States has added 2 new bases on China's doorstep. Can you imagine, by the way, if the shoe were on the other foot? If China and Russia did the very same thing to the United States, surrounding the United States with military bases and nuclear weapons? China is not going to let the United States mess with Taiwan. The Wall Street Journal now reports that China's air bases along China's southeast coast have undergone significant infrastructure upgrades recently in preparation for a conflict over Taiwan. Wow. So you want to fight that? No, thank you. The United States would lose, and they would lose big time.
It's happening bigly.
That's not me saying that, by the way. That is the United States Department of Defense saying that, which just published its brand new annual report called Military and the Security Developments Involving China. This China Power report shows that China has the weapons and forces to destroy us if we try to go to war with them. But the United States government thinks you're stupid, and they won't tell you what's really going on here. What's really going on here with China is their big secret. They think you are stupid. They think you won't notice what's really happening. It's not about military power at all. It's about economic power. And this week, we got our clearest signal yet that China is about to change everything with their gold buying and their gold hoarding. I think it's safe to call it hoarding. Why are they hiding it from us? Why is China hiding it from us? Why are they buying up so much gold? They are playing their cards very close to the vest. It represents a major shift in global power away from the United States dollar hegemony. No one in the world knows more about this than Dominic Frisby. He knows what China is doing.
China,
Right, yes.
as we know, is extraordinarily ambitious. And we hear that it wants its currency to be backed by gold. But maybe that's just a rumor put about by gold bugs. We don't know. But we do know that China is ambitious.
You catch that? Back their currency with gold. More on that part in a second.
I've probably studied this more than anyone. And I'm going to tell you now why China's gold holdings are probably 10 times what they say they are. More than 50% of Chinese gold mining is state-owned, and China does not export any of the gold that it produces. It's not allowed to. So if China turns around and goes, we got twice as much gold as you, that's tantamount to a declaration of war. The yuan gets revalued upwards, gold gets revalued upwards while China's still accumulating, but most importantly of all, China's $3 trillion get devalued.
This is war. This is an economic war. China backing its currency with gold becomes a massively attractive alternative to the United States dollar, which is backed by debt, of course. $33 trillion of debt is what backs the United States dollar. China is dumping U.S. bonds faster than the United States dumped Ukraine in favor of Israel. The U.S. gets its cheap borrowed money from China, and in return, China buys U.S. Treasury bonds. Not anymore. Where is the United States going to get its cheap money to fund all of its wars? What happens when most of the world starts setting transactions in Chinese currency? Before, China could say to countries, hey, why don't you start using our Chinese yuan? And they'd say, well, your currency is filled with a lot of U.S. debt. Why would we do that? Why would we want your currency when we can go right to the source and just use U.S. dollars? Well, now they can say, hey, it's not backed by U.S. debt anymore. It's backed by gold. How about reconsidering your position? Wake up, people. This isn't about Gaza or Taiwan. It's about economic dominance without even firing one freaking bullet.